It's picking it up now.
And we have arrived to Corey and Ty's mind. Feeling fine on this day. I'm feeling divine.
Feeling divine, just fine. Hella good, bro. So what's going on, bro? You living the dream or what?
I'm just grinding and thriving, man. Trying to get a little flow in my skate step. You feel me?
Skating, right?
Yes, sir.
How long you been skating for, bro?
About 10, 15 years. I started when I was 13, and it was my hobby growing up. And my dad would give me some cash, and I would go to the skate park for 8 hours a day. And it was the only thing that I knew and loved from, my earliest memory. I played football early on and did, what my family wanted or told me to do, but that never blossomed. I never could get, in a formation on a football team and just run so fast. Where
did you go to high school at?
I went to 2 different high schools, Hazen High School, and then I moved from Renton, where Hazen was, to Hawaii. I was actually enrolled here in Scottsdale for a little bit. I went to Kokopah and had, spent 5th and 6th grade there, learned a little bit about the arts and
nice.
Music theory, and, my family is into that type of stuff. So, and then, I moved out to Hawaii after some family issues happened, and boom. I was a Howley boy.
You going to skate parks in Hawaii, bro?
I quit skating when I moved to Hawaii.
Oh, shit. So you took a little break.
Yeah.
Was that the last time you skated is when you moved to Hawaii?
Yeah, that's fair to say. Because then after Hawaii, I went in the military, moved all the way to the other ocean. The Atlantic out there.
The Atlantic.
That was a trip.
That's crazy. So you were in the Atlantic Ocean? So you went from Renton. Renton, where's Renton at?
Washington.
So you went from Washington to Arizona to a little bit to Hawaii. And then to the East Coast. And then from the East Coast you went, or not even the East Coast, maybe like the South, more close to the East Coast? Or how close were you? Like, where were you?
I was in Norfolk, Virginia.
Virginia. Okay, so you're in the South, a little bit in the South.
Yeah. It's like right in the medium, I think.
Nice.
So, and it's a completely different lifestyle out there. I learned and respected other cultures and races. I don't mean that. Like, I don't joke when I say this, Corey, but I've truly experienced, like, on the spectrum of cultures. Not even to say anything about the colors, but I've experienced so much and seen, I'm going to be raw here, early Arizona Mexican neighborhoods, early in Seattle, black neighborhoods and Mexican and white, right? All alike. And it was pretty demographic up in the Northwest. Like, there would be a spectrum of colors in every high school, which was great. So that was a really cool. Then I go to Hawaii, where I got Islanders and Filipinos and Micronesians and obviously Samoans and Native Hawaiians, and then I go from there to the South, close to the South, and I went to North Carolina and saw what real racism is. Like, I mean, there are bad people out there, and there
are definitely people who behave badly. Everywhere you go. A lot of people who just behave badly. It's hard to say that they're bad people because they behave badly, but people who behave badly nonetheless. So you were saying you've been moving around the country, you've seen the diversity, you've seen different people, you've seen racism, you've seen all kinds of shit, bro. And you didn't even go from around the country, but you also went like to the other parts of the world, right? You were in London, you said?
Yeah, right when I got stationed in Norfolk, Virginia, I was attached to a destroyer, and my destroyer was out on deployment, so I couldn't sit idly in the Navy port. They would be like, okay, we'll go meet your ship out in Greece, and that's what I did. They sent me out there, and a story we were just talking about was they put me in positions as a young, I was freshly 19, and I want to, iterate that. It's not I would say like a 22-year-old, honestly, is like almost mature enough to handle those situations. But I was but I was thankful at the time when I was in Greece and in unfamiliar places that my childhood was so interesting and heavy and very potent in what I had to mesh with. I'd find myself in a different school almost every year. I had to adapt to what the other kids were. And so that element of my childhood is what I, exercise and to survive today. It's like you put me in a room in front of 5 zombies, 5 witches, 5 scarecrows, 5 pumpkin heads. People tell me that's like a really, a skill of mine, is that I can almost connect with everyone, or at least make them feel that I care for, I value a lot of what you have to offer. And, it's
you're very personable. That's what they say. Personable. People from different parts of the world or different areas, different backgrounds vibe with you.
Yeah.
It's a good thing. That's a good thing. That. A good thing to pick up from, going through life. And I'm sure those were a lot of challenges you had, moving around, moving high schools, making friends in one place, making friends in another, helped make you very extroverted, I would imagine.
Yeah. And I've been through my introverted phases, but for some reason, the sun comes up and I'm like, okay, let's go grind. Let's go make some money. Let's go say hello to the people that we won't see again for another 24 hours. And I've seen both sides. I've been forcefully introverted and I would say voluntarily extroverted. That I am just and I pay homage to the people I was around and the people who raised me. I didn't have the fancy car, the paid college, the real cookie cutter nice childhood. Going to a different state every other year. I would come to Arizona to visit Reese and Allie and that side of my family. And not to mention, I had 2 different sides that were like the Montagues and the Capulets in Romeo and Juliet. You got one side who's very focused on the arts, loves you for who you are, very accepting. If you will, they were the Montagues, or the left-thinking side of people that accepted. So when I would visit every summer, I'd be here. And then I go to my Hex side of the family, who's like very number-oriented, like not so much love, but what are you going to be when you grow up, and very structured, and that normal life, the quote-unquote normal life. So I kind of got to experience 2 different sides of how families operated and how I should be and my role in a room, etc. Just very trained to be sociable, I guess, and personable. So
maybe it's something natural. It seems like it's something natural that is who you are, instead of something that you've like learned growing up. Like I feel like I can tell the difference when someone has learned something or when something is just kind of like natural. And it seems like it's a natural part of who you are. And maybe natural and learned are intertwined, but you make it seem natural, for sure. The fact that you have always had that part of yourself growing up, and then on top of that, you were exposed to situations that like brought that part of yourself out even more. You were put into situations where you had to make new friends, put into situations where you had to think of, family and life differently everywhere you went. So I feel like it's probably a combination, actually, of nature and nurture, where it's something that you kind of cultivated over time, but it's also something that has become a part of, like, breathing for you. It's a second nature. You don't have to think about doing it. For me, socializing, bro, I have to think about socializing. I have to, like, literally think about what I'm going to say. I don't just fly off the top of the head. Like, everything that I say before it comes out, I've thought about it at least more than 3 times.
What do you what do you would say that why is this the case?
I'm not sure. It's just the way I've always been. Growing up, I had more of a like no filter. I would just say whatever I was thinking. Of course, like we all are when we're children. We just say whatever we're thinking, and then over time, I think when around the time I turned like 5 years old, 6 years old, I was watching fucking Saved by the Bell. You know, I was watching Saved by the Bell, and they'd have these moments in the middle of the show where they'd pause, and they'd have like this inner dialogue.
Oh.
And I'd have this. I remember when I was like 5 or 6, thinking to myself, "Could I do that?" And from there, it just began. From there, like everything before I said it came up as inner dialogue.
Oh, like yeah.
I mean, if I've had alcohol, then it's a whole nother story, right?
Right. I can confirm. Me and Corey, you know, we've gotten wasted together and good times. So we just say dumb stuff and we act out of character. We do what we aren't supposed to, you know. That's why we love drinking.
Alcohol does that to everyone. Alcohol does that to everyone.
Cheers,
and
brother.
Whether you enjoy it or not, that doesn't matter. It just does that to you, you know.
Actually, on that tip, I'm gonna go grab a beer.
Go ahead, my brother. But yeah, it's crazy, man. You know, living the dream. Living the dream is like, there's so many different aspects to living the dream. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's this idea of the American dream, and then there's like the idea of reality, you know, how living the dream becomes reality, and living the reality becomes the dream. It can get blurry between the two when we think about, when people say, oh, the American dream or the pursuit of happiness. You know, when somebody asks how I'm doing, I tell them, oh, I'm living the dream, you know. Living the dream because I'm in this pursuit of meaning. And that's my dream, you know what I'm saying? And what I was just talking about while you were grabbing a beer is like the meaning of living the dream. Because we were just talking about what living the dream was like for you, bro. Like, we were just talking about how living the dream, oh, yeah. When you put things on the table, it slams hard. We were just talking about how living the dream can influence you to behave differently, you know? Like, living life, and that's what I mean by living the dream. Living life is living the dream for me. When I say to other people, oh, I'm living the dream, bro, basically what I'm saying is I'm living life.
What do you think the definition of living the dream is? That's where I want to, like, okay, so they tell you the American dream, have kids, family, that independence, barbecue on the lawn type lifestyle, have your friends, you know, and go to work 9 to 5. But you have countries like France and they go to work for 3 hours in the morning, they rest for 3 hours, and that's their day.
Yep.
You know, the standard. So that's their that's their definition of their life. I mean, some say religion, some say, you know, what is it? Mine is just like, honestly, it changes every year for me. Like what I really want to do in life. Like I've said, I've been very low and I've been very high in life. And the low times I don't have much of that. And the high times it's more of proceed. As my Uncle Reese said, go to work. You know, do work every day. When I'm not productive, you know, it's been a good solid 3-4 months where I've been like absolutely chilling, productive, you know, making money. It's like, and now I have this Saturday. I wake up at 6 naturally. That's not Tyler. Like, you know, my people that know me, they know I like my sleep in the morning and I'll wake up late. But for some reason, meaning of life has just kicked me in the ass. It's like, you don't need to know it, motherfucker. Someone's up there slapping me or something. Yeah, just like, stop being depressed, idiot. There's a lot to live and you got like 50 more years. You know, I'm 28 years old. So, anyways.
Living the dream, yeah, man. You know, I think waking up every day, finding something to be grateful for at some point in the day, you know, I think that's living the dream right there. I don't know about the rest. The rest is just part of the dream. you don't have to be living it. You can be experiencing it. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And what I mean by you can be experiencing it is like, okay, yeah, like you can be going through it, but that doesn't mean you have to like identify with it and say, oh, this is my life.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, yeah.
It's kind of like, all right, this is a moment. It's gonna pass, and once that moment passes, I'm back to living the dream, bro.
Right, for real. And like, it's good to smile again. Hey, you know, like one of my older friends, he looked at me one day because he's seen me in my lows, seen me in my highs, and he's like, dude, and he's experiencing a low, and he's like, it's just good to see someone smile. Like, at least like, if you can, like, to me, if you can smile within an hour of me conversating with you, then you're my people.
Yeah,
you feel me? Like, I mean, Pharrell Williams, gotta be happy, gotta long. It's a state of mind. And now we were talking earlier about blossom flowers and wilted flowers, and there's like, honestly, how I'd categorize this is like, you got the wilted flowers who are out there who don't know any meaning, who don't have family, and who are just so low they resort to drugs and blah blah blah. Then you got the flowers that are quote unquote doing the meaning of life. And while my garden is nourished, come jab at me, take some of my soil. Because I'm not going to be I might not be nourished in 40 years. I plan on, you know, being fruitful to others, but you never know. You know, there could be a drought. There could be more sun sometimes. Like, you know, there's all various reasons, you know, flowers wilt, but no.
You know, in terms of flowers, like, you know, we're all at some point pristine. We all have all of our blossoms ready and colored and beautiful and brilliant. And over time, experiences or our identification with our experiences, what it does is it kind of causes us to wilt, or it causes us to dwindle. We won't be standing as strong or as tall a couple days after something...
Would you consider yourself an introvert or an extrovert?
You know, I've taken tests, and I've gotten consistent 50%, like down the line.
Okay.
I have my extroverted moments, and I have my introverted moments. And you know, it's really interesting because my introverted moments are kind of nuanced by like a little bit of melancholy, a little bit of withdrawn sense of being withdrawn, a little bit of gratitude. There's so much in the introverted moments, and in the extroverted moments there's joy, there's this desire to share, there's you know, this energy that I just have to go and spread around, you know. So it's really interesting noticing how I have both. And I've noticed how in some seasons the seasons affect some of my moods. So sometimes during the summer, I'm more extroverted for sure. You know, during the summer, I'm waking up like at like 7 a.m. and shit. I'm ready to fucking socialize, go outside and shit. During the winter, dude,
wake up with arms wide open.
With arms wide open.
No,
for real.
I was reading some article on introverted brain activity, and basically you have these minds where there is no hyperfunction, or their brain activity is through the roof, and then the extroverts tended to have a more mellow in the middle. Mm-hmm. And then I personally get confused because it's like I'm almost exactly where you're at. It's like I have not taken any tests, but I have found myself in extroverted situations that I am very enjoying more than my lonesome. And then in my lonesome, I'm like, I'm enjoying more than what could be. But every time I say that, it usually ends up to be false. I say, hey, I could sit in my room all day and relax and order pizza and just, I had a good week. you know, and just F the world. Or I could go hang out with some good people and have a good day, and it usually ends up being that way. I drive home at night, and the cool breeze fills my car, and I'm like, dang, like, today was a good day. Ice Cube, man.
Yeah. You know, it's really interesting because it sounds like you adapt well to different situations. And being adaptable is very important. And being able to adapt, like being able to identify, okay, this is the time for me to be introverted. This is the time for me to be extroverted. Those kinds of things you pick up on naturally. You know, if you're around a group of people, you're not going to be like to yourself. I haven't really seen a moment where you're around people and you're socially withdrawn. You know, I've never seen that in your presence. And I'm sure there are moments where when you're by yourself, you're totally socially withdrawn, where you're like, yeah, this is all me. This is all about me right now. I don't really want to be around people. I just want to vibe and wiggle in my room by myself, bro. You know,
right.
You know what I'm saying? There's both, and I think.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Me and my friends call this sitting in your house with your dick in your hand. You know, just like laying, you know, not actually your dick in your hand, but
yeah.
Just being at home and kind of cashing out is another term I like to say. It's like, you know, you went Monday through Friday being this all-star, you know, working, and then you hit this Saturday and for me, honestly, my Sundays, and I feel like a lot of people are like this because obviously Sunday's the day of worship, but I think, I don't know, for some reason on Sundays, like I'll go to bed tonight and wake up and I'll hit that Bruno Mars, I just don't feel like doing anything. I just want to lay in my bed. That is where I'm at on Sunday. So with this being said, we got days affecting this notion of introverted extrovertedness, and that's interesting and fun to observe. Like, there's so many songs about it. Kier did a song, Monday, Tuesday, you know, blah blah blah, Friday, but I'm in love. It's true. You go Monday through Thursday, it's like, honestly, you feel like a robot. You feel like you're just surrendering to the man, how you want to put it, but yeah, I get my ass up at 5, shower, go to work, make that bread, and then it's like, okay, and honestly, I'm not the most sociable on these days, where like even recent I would hang out, or if I'd see you throughout the week, I'd just be like, you know, poo is pee, 2 + 2 is 4, I'll talk to you later. You know, I'm just like, I'm not giving my full self like, you know, a lot of people can do every day. So,
yeah.
You know, and so...
What do you think about that? Like, people who can give their full self every day, do you think, like, there's something special about them?
Honestly, I feel like it's where they are in their life, and I feel like it's older people that can do this, but there are young people. Yeah, it's that. You're right, and I find them interesting too. It's like, dang, you know, you come in here and you're so loud and charismatic and loud, you know, and so perfect, if you will.
It's like their energy is contagious. Just being around them puts you in their vibe.
Right.
And it's like, where do you get that from? How do you manage that? I've never seen you outside of that character. Is that just your natural state of mind or your natural state of being?
Right.
How do you get that? How are you there?
Yeah.
You know? I've seen people who are like that, and a lot of the times, extroverts seem to me like that. So that's why I think naturally, I'm an introvert. You know, I think naturally, I've learned to socialize with people, and I've learned the appropriate time for certain things. But I've seen people who are like totally extroverted and like. And when I see that, I'm like, yo, where do you get your energy, bro? Like,
superpowers or something.
Yeah, it's like a superpower for them, you know? And the truth is the reason why I'm introverted is because I have a lot of activity going on up in my head. There's so much activity going on in my head, even when there's, like, silence and I'm not thinking, that's when there's probably the most activity going on in my head. It's like when I'm not thinking at all and I'm quiet, there's like so much being processed. There's so many.
Oh yeah, and that's why we sleep. It's like, but you, I feel the same. It's when I'm idle, even my brain gets kind of put on sleep mode, not shut down.
Yeah,
it's like, it's like running through papers at a tax firm. It's like, this is what went on throughout the day. You hung out with Corey for an hour. You talked on the podcast. You went skateboarding. You did work. You paid bills, and you're gonna do it all again tomorrow, Tyler.
Yeah, hamster on a wheel, bro.
Yeah,
it's like that, bro. The mind is like that, and it's so crazy how the mind is so difficult to satisfy. Like I've noticed my mind on a day that I woke up feeling good. I woke up feeling good. I was ready to make this money. I went to work. I was ready to make this money. I'm like, let's go. I showed up at work, and I've noticed my mind go from a positive state to a negative state right
away.
Away, and then I'm just like, why am I going negative all of a sudden? And then it's just like it's weighing on me, and I'm just like, yo, dude,
I feel this.
It's all good. And you know what the crazy part is work has kind of helped me realize that that's just my mind doing its thing. My mind is always going to do its thing, even if I'm not the one like making it do its thing. My mind is just going to do it because it fucking can.
We kind of go on autopilot.
Exactly. And that autopilot, it's okay to have it. Work has taught me how to sit with the autopilot. To sit with that autopilot. It's okay to have the negativity. It's okay to be a little bothered by somebody asking for help about something that they shouldn't ask for help about.
Right, exactly. And
it's totally okay to be bothered, and the fact that I'm bothered by it is like, what does that have to teach me about what I'm being bothered by? Why am I bothered by this?
Exactly.
It's like, why does this bother me?
That's what we all want. Exactly.
And like, what's going on?
It's that constant
learning the patterns.
Yeah.
When I have lunch, it's harder for me to get bothered. When I get more sleep, it's harder for me to get bothered.
Yeah.
When I have water, it's harder for me to get bothered. When I'm breathing and I'm meditating more often, me getting bothered doesn't happen as much. Or it does happen, but I notice it, and I'm just like, it's okay to get bothered. And I let it go. But on days where I don't have much sleep, I haven't had water, I haven't been eating,
and you get drunk sleeping, like a coconut head,
and I get drunk, bro.
No, bro. That Sunday feeling of just like no serotonin in your belly. It's like, death metal. But that's the natural fun part of life. It's like, fuck it. Let's embrace the highs and chill with the lows. And that theory of time gets faster as you grow is so true. Because the little things that you and I might have experienced, like driving a car for the first time or working for the first time, was so long. Those days were like, dang, like each hour was a chapter.
Yeah.
Now each week is a page.
Yeah.
You feel me? So it's and I do agree. I go to work on Monday, and it's like, okay, you have out of 20 people, you might have 10 who had a great weekend, their family loved them, and you might have another 10 that is just on the what do the hip kids call it nowadays? It's called I'm on my demon shit. Right?
So what does that mean?
That means like you are on that like don't talk to me mode, like I am mad at life. Like I'm on that demon shit. And if you do talk to me, all you're gonna get is shit, like negative.
I get it.
So you got half these people in the office, and I'm like trying to pick between the angels and the demons in my head. I'm like, should I initiate a conversation with this person because I'm bored? And then what if they like kill my vibe and like the rest of my day is shit because of her? But I'm like, okay, so I got another guy that'll give me some good conversation, good vibes, and then it'll counteract. So I'm like, that's kind of what goes on in my brain too. It's like,
oh, it sounds like you're an extrovert by nature.
Maybe.
Because you recharge by socializing with people in a way. Well, maybe you're not an extrovert, because I've definitely like understood the fact that you can go through introverted moments like anyone can. But like it sounds like when you're at work, you like to socialize, right?
Yeah, it makes the day go by faster.
Oh,
for me, like getting in a small conversation about a lady that I don't know, telling me about her childhood in Colombia. That makes my hour so much more quicker. I'll look at the time and, oh, dang, 20 minutes just went past because her and I were talking about some random shit. So, definitely. But then, like I think we've established, I go back in and they'll see me put my headphones in and it's like, don't fuck with me. I'm on my demon. Well, I'm on my temporary demon mode, where like I just want to listen to music and get my work done. I don't want to hear about your goldfish. I don't want to hear about your weekend. So I guess that that element can be a little selfish though, because like
introversion is demon mode, bro. I'm on my demon shit, bro.
Yeah. I believe.
I just want to be left the fuck alone.
I'm on that demon fan. Yep. So, I kind of go through both, to be honest. And that's, I think, a belief of mine, but I definitely appreciate that I'm.
How do you feel towards the end of the week though? With you get the weekend off, you've earned your free time, you get to sleep in. How do you feel? Like what's your baseline? What do you like to do?
Do what I don't normally do on a work day. So
routine. You don't want to do the same routine.
No. So if I feel like I'm waking up at 6 and just getting coffee and being on my computer all day, that'll remind me of work. So like, that's why I've implemented skateboarding and going out and doing whatever. So, yeah.
That's crazy as fuck. Something that I was talking about last time when I was talking with Reese was earning your happiness. Like this sense of serotonin is the concept of delayed gratification. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, so if we thought of happiness into two boxes, there's instant gratification and there's delayed gratification.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You can get happiness right now, or you can get happiness later.
Mm-hmm.
There's two different types of approaches to happiness, and you can spend a day getting happiness right now, but when you finally reach later, if you don't have anything to appreciate or anything to like give you joy later, this sense of I've earned my free time, this sense of I've earned my ability to sleep in, or I've earned my ability to have a drink for the day.
That's why, Corey, I feel like I've coined this term. It's called cashing out for me. So like exactly, and delayed and instant gratification is so different, but so unique and fun to at least analyze, right? We, going to work now for 2 months, I'm not struggling for food or gas or any of these tobacco products that I like, and that's some sort of delayed gratification. But the fighter in me and the wisdom that I have incurred throughout my years told me that it ain't over. You're 28. What do you be happy, embrace it. But, and kind of get in that war mode where Monday I got to wake up at 5:30 again and there's no ifs, ands, or buts. I don't have an option. So I kind of move from one mood to another really quick. That's the definition of bipolar technically, but I'm very calm. I'm not like a raging bipolar, frantic dude, but
you're a witness to what goes on within you. You're not a reactor. So you notice when you go from one state to another quickly, but instead of reacting to it, you're more of someone who observes it, and you're like, okay, well now I'm feeling this way, and you accept it. It sounds like you work with it, despite the challenges it may offer.
Yeah. I think that's the first step of improving. Is just knowing what it is and identifying, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lose weight if I think I'm already skinny. I'm gonna lose weight if I think I'm fat. I'm gonna wake up, look at that mirror, and be honest with myself. So when I know this, I go to bed, process it, and wake up. Okay, I'm not gonna go get that sugary drink, that coffee or whatever. I'll just drink some water.
You're going to choose the long-term gratification.
Right. And
sometimes you wake up and choose the long-term gratification.
Exactly, right. So that's what I chase. I feel like it's, a long-term goal of mine is to have my own house, my own condo in a couple years. With all this money that I hope to save, is to finally own some property. So it kind of helps me wake up again, and keep going. Even when my mind is weak. There's no option. That's really, a guy like me who loves his freedom, loves his free time. Don't get me wrong, like that's nice, but it's even nicer to do it with others, aka a family, one day, and do it right. So
these are all the different aspects of living the dream, it sounds like, bro. I think so. Like wanting a family one day, living the dream also involves like making those future bargains with yourself, making a bargain with your future self. This idea that like, okay, I'm going to go without doing this for a certain amount of time so that I can benefit later on. I'm going to go to work for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, so I can get a paycheck, so I can actually attain the life that I want. It's a beautiful world we live in and a beautiful life, Like, there's so many things about living the dream that, in my opinion, like, when you ask me, I'm like, dude, when people ask me, how you doing? I just say living the dream sometimes because it's like...
Dude, that's funny, because I do too. Yeah, I always say living the dream, man, However I want to say it, yeah.
You can say that, like, there's so many ways you can say living the dream. Like, you can even say living the dream when you're having a bad day, and you can say it, like, sarcastically. Right. You can be like, I'm living the dream, man. Like,
yeah, exactly.
There's
living
so many...
the dream, bro. No, I'm living the dream. Living the dream. Dude, I'm living the fucking dream. What are you getting at me for? Dude, I'm living the dream.
Living the dream, brother. And I think that's a beautiful thing, like that there you can say that.
It is funny you say it though, because I do actually, that's my phrase to people I don't know. Hey, how's it going? Good morning, Tyler. Living the dream. Even though I got no response. Oh, how are you? Living the dream, man. Oh, it's Monday. That might be my follow up. Oh, it's Friday.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
And I think there's something valuable in earning that, working towards it every day. Like you went from a place where you were moving around all the time growing up, and then you joined the military, and you moved around even more, and then you finally got to a point of where you can like actually. You can stay in one place and build the life that you want, or build the future that you want with yourself. You can ask yourself questions and say, hey, what do I want 3 years from now? What do I want 2 years from now? What do I want 1 year from now? How am I going to get there? What am I going to do to get there? It's like, and it's not about being perfect. You don't have to be consistent every day. You just got to show up whenever you can. Show up for yourself whenever you can,
Right.
And that's what we do. That's what we're doing when we say we're living the dream, Like, one of the things about my job that really gets me is that it's so challenging because I have to remember technical rules, and it's all about money, and it's free money from the government, so I definitely have to remember the technical rules to make sure nobody gets free money on accident.
Right.
And I have to make sure that whoever is receiving the free money understands the rules and things like that. There's so many technical rules that it stresses me out sometimes that I actually question myself. I ask myself, am I going to be able to do a good job?
Yeah.
Am I going to be able to do this?
Right. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's not about being the best. It's not about being perfect. It's not about knowing all the rules, having all the answers. It's just about being able to show up every day. How well can you show up every day for yourself?
Right.
Like show up every day and do the best job you can. How well can we show up for ourselves to improve our lives in the future by using the past and the present as an exchange? I'm going to let the fact that I've gone through this in the past and this in the present help me decide what I want to do in the present to change my future. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if I'm going out like too far here.
I'm tracking.
Yeah,
Please.
but it's like, it's amazing the ability that we can do this. We can make these
we are the deciders.
Yes,
we are.
We are the choosers.
Like,
the
okay,
deciders.
you got a vessel, bro. You were born in this brain. You got this education. You know, whatever makes Corey. I was born in this, but there's that. What is it? Is it the spirit? Is it the brain? I think it's the brain. Scientifically speaking, our brain is us. I mean, our heart. They say our heart's our brain and our dick or whatever.
So what you think of as you is actually spread out across your whole body, and also is spread out across your entire environment. What you think of as you, like me as an individual, doesn't come from any specific source, but comes from everywhere.
Right.
Including all of the variables that should be very specifically separated to understand.
Isn't that insane? So, like, the definition of cancer is the defecation of cells. Now, our cells, us then, with this being said. So, like, my finger has an X amount of cells in it. Does that define Tyler? And when I get cancer, obviously we die. The removal of the cancer cells is just cells being sick, I guess. I don't know.
We either live or we die, yeah.
So, right. And it's crazy to think about.
When we get cancer, it's kind of like our cells don't know what to do, in a way. And it's not really that they don't know what to do. It's they start doing things that don't normally fit typical cell behavior. You know what I'm saying? Like, so a free radical cell is a cell that is not behaving in accordance to what every other cell is doing. It's kind of doing its own thing in a way.
Right.
And that's a weird thing, because free radical cells, what they do is they basically create more free radical cells, and that's what becomes cancer. From at least a genetic standpoint, that's what they've realized. What becomes cancer is there's a connection between cells that aren't behaving in a way that they should be for biology to operate functionally. For example, I don't really know what some cells could do, but I would imagine that cells are supposed to multiply, right? Free radical cells don't multiply in a way that helps the whole colony of cells behave. Like, cells multiply to make copies and to help the whole system behave better.
Is our DNA... So there's DNA in cells, there's DNA in everything in our body. Now, we say, I kind of shouted this out, that does the brain make you you? Does the spirit make you you? What is it? What makes you want to be so...
Gravity makes you you.
Okay, but what makes Tyler and Corey? I mean, we essentially share the same blood, but why do you have your unique, great personality traits, and why do I have mine? Right? And why did we grow different colors on our stems? You know what I mean?
That's
I mean that in a there's rich qualities about me and you that separate, and there's poor qualities that you and I have. Whatever.
Variations.
So yes, exactly. So what's to be said about that? So I understand, gravity. Without gravity, nothing would be real. We would all be floating like pieces of matter in the universe. Like, what's up, bro? Like, I just see my arm like chopped off. Oh, I didn't make it on Earth. So far away. Yeah. So, but yeah, like, why are humans different? That's my question. So
here's the thing: when we're born, there's two ideas that are born with us. The idea that something is changing, and the idea that nothing is changing. And depending how we navigate through those two things when we're born, throughout our entire life, from the point that we're born, and as we go on through life, the more we identify with certain experiences, certain events, the more we form an identity behind them. Mm-hmm. And so we have this natural inclination to attach ourselves to things. We have this natural inclination to become attached to an event or an experience, to what that experience means to us, mm-hmm. to what that event did to us, mm-hmm. how it changed us. We have this tendency to develop a connection to things. And as we grow up, we develop a connection to our memory. And depending on how we identify with our memory, that influences how we express ourselves, you know? So in this weird way, we're like a two-way system where life is constantly impacting us and we're constantly impacting life. Mm-hmm. And how we develop a sense of identity behind those experiences or behind those memories, mm-hmm. behind those events, how we tell ourselves stories about those things, you know?
What we make real and tangible in our mind.
What we tell ourselves is real and tangible in our mind.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's just the whole nature and nurture thing again. It's like you have different cultures, civilizations.
What makes us, right?
Nations, yeah.
All of that makes us. Right. Everything, all of that. Everything all the time. What's going on inside of you and what's going on outside of you is what's making you you.
Right.
But how you identify with that determines how you attach yourself to that. So if you say, the fact that I'm going through a hard time right now is because of something I did, I'm always going to go through hard times because this is all I do. This is all a pattern of identification. This is all saying, this is something I did. This is something I'm going to keep doing. This is the way that life is going to keep reacting to me. Before I get you lost completely.
I'm tracking.
It's kind of like life is constantly informing us of ourselves. And the more we get to know ourselves, the more we can actually let go of ourselves. But in that process of getting to know ourselves and letting go of ourselves, there is this trap of attachment, of getting clung or stuck on some part of ourselves and not willing or being able to let it go. And that forms identity. It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing for me to recognize that I'm different from you.
Our body is like a tree. You got the bark that's growing outside, whether it's like healthy bark, like molded bark, and then that's gonna, that's gonna contribute to the growth of the tree, whatever it takes in, right? But the bottom line is we are all trees in a way that we have different inputs every single day. Yo, Reese. Oh, okay. Wait, did Reese already leave? Oh, Reese already left. Anyways, we're like trees. It's like we all have different hair and shit, and
we have different colors and different patterns of leaves, even if we are a similar kind of tree. I could be an oak tree, you could be an oak tree, but because I grew up in one area and you grew up in a different area, that's going to impact the way that our leaves grow,
right?
The way that our seeds sprout,
right?
The way that insects are attached or animals make homes in us. It's all going to affect the structure of our fucking trunk. It's all of these variations are what make life so beautiful. But I think what develops our identity, develops our personalities, is this attachment to those variations, to those very experiences, to those events that leave impressions and conditions on us. You know what I'm saying? To those events that make us tell a story about ourselves that is impactful, and then it affects our heart, and then it affects our gut, and then it affects our sexuality, or it affects our thoughts.
Right.
You know, all of this. And the thing is that the mind or the brain, the heart, the gut, the organs, the whole body has different numbers of areas that are always communicating with each other, almost to the point where it's almost like we have multiple brains. You might have a brain in your head, but you also have a brain in your heart, and you also have a brain in your gut, and they all behave differently. You know, you also have a brain in your sexual organs, and all of these areas are always interconnected, and they're all influencing each other, to the point where this idea of who am I becomes the big question. Who am I? Where did I come from? Who is this?
Who am I is a good question. And philosophers have been studying this for years and years, and it is that, you know, I wish I took my philosophy class seriously, because when I was, young, separated from the military, I partied a lot in college, so I am kind of a coconut head in a lot of areas. But there was a lot of philosophers in the world that question this, and it's still not answered to this day. There's no definition. There's, of course, hundreds of theories about it, but we are temporary. That's what I know. And we are, well, not, okay, actually, there's an argument to this temporariness, because when I was in at my great-grandmother's funeral, they're like, okay, your pastor came up and said something from a passage, and it stuck with me. She may be gone, like her spirit's not in her, but guess what? Like, where is she going? In the ground. And do you know what is in the ground? What comes up. And you guys are all her ground, her soil that she nourished. So she's still technically still alive. She's
very well alive,
right?
Living in your DNA. May even appear again in one of your children or one of your grandchildren. And that's the way the cycle of life goes. And there's so much we don't know about what is temporary and what is permanent. We don't have an idea of what is temporary and what is permanent. All we have is a sense of measurement, right? We have an inch to measure an inch. We have a centimeter to measure a centimeter. We have a ruler to measure a foot. We have all these ways of measuring what is temporary and also what is permanent at the same time. And I was listening to this guru talk today, right? His name is Swamiji Paramahamsa Nityananda. And he was talking about how the ruler is not the scale. We use we use inches and centimeters as like a standard of measurement, but that's not the end of it all. That's not the be all of it. Everything is temporary, but everything is constant. And that's an interesting balance, right? How can everything be temporary and constant at the same time? Change is the only thing that is permanent. Mm-hmm. Kind of, that's the same statement. Mm-hmm. It's like saying that, okay, well, change is always happening. Well, that's kind of a permanent thing. And the fact that we move from life, we move from this living the dream physically in this body to being put underground or cremated or sent to the ocean, or however we practice the tribulation of death. We go from life to death, and then we realize that our ancestors are constantly affecting us. Ancestors we've never met are influencing our everyday life,
right?
Through their genetics.
And and my aunt,
through DNA,
right?
Sorry,
my aunt from my dad's side is doing so much genealogy reports, and she's teaching me to this day that. And she was actually adopted. My family didn't. My grandfather did not account for her and her family, or did not take her in, because it was a feud in high school, and they fornicated. Obviously, the mother of my aunt in high school, and anyways, so she's on my hex side of the family, and she's telling me about my ancestry and like where my people came from, and I'll never be one to say, don't teach me about myself. Like, I want to know more about that, because that's what you're stuck with, what they wanted you to know. With people before you, they didn't want you, there's a reason they did what they did. Told, you while they were alive, or your mother, what told any, all that. Don't fight that. As kids, the youth will be like, fuck you, Dad. Like, I'm going home. Cartman shit. Fuck you, Cat. I'm going home.
It's better to get to know yourself than to avoid yourself, is what you're trying to say, right?
Yes.
It's better to get to know your history, and your history is connected to who you are and everyone you encounter on a daily basis. Everyone you're around is your history. And then on top of that, there's your genetic history. It's important to get into contact with your genetic history to learn where your ancestors came from, where your ancestors went, what did your ancestors do.
And will all their work be in vain because you didn't want to embrace it, right? My dad had me, and my grandmother had him, and, blah, blah, blah. Their work should be for something. You look at America, like, we have what we have because the people went before us. And like, let's be honest, like, there's so many reasons America is where they are, but we're pretty corrupt. But those were our ancestors, right? So, I like to inquire at all times what my people did, aka history. I mean, American history or global history, whatever. That's a point of interest for me, but I will say that, like, you look at Pocahontas and John Smith, right? You got John Smith, he's coming from England, running into what they considered savage. Now, the savage were the Native Americans, but from the Native Americans' perspective, they were the evil ones, the knights, they came to rue the day. And now, it's insane because, like, do we think Christopher Columbus, and it wasn't even Christopher Columbus was way after so many settlers that had came here, even before Native Americans. Well, Native Americans, from my information, were here absolutely first, the end-all be-all, but there has been some rumors that some tribes were there, and some French tribes or whatever, but I look at this and it's like we evolved so differently and so narcissistically. I mean, you look at England. You look at these. They're British. They sent.
You have to get to know
over.
where European culture came from. You really have to get to know where that came from to see where it has blind spots.
Mm-hmm.
You have to think about how people who came to America were fleeing the British royalty.
But it's funny because you have the Pocahontas story being so glorified, but there's other points in history that should have been glorified that weren't, or exaggerated. Honestly, that it's crazy to me because I obviously went to school in America and I was taught of American history, and when the topic came about the settlers coming to Jamestown and on the boat, whatever it was called, the Mayflower, we talked about Pocahontas' story for half the time. I guess this is like early American history, but it's like, what are you gonna, like, why, I guess all I'm trying to say is that weed is good, player, you feel me? Because that shit got you rolling over there. And that shit was fire,
man,
bro.
I tell you, my friend, bro. talking about Pocahontas and John Smith coming to a foreign territory from a familiar land. You have to think about what the Europeans were escaping. You know, they were escaping the oppression of royalty and the oppression of
right,
old money. You know, I didn't want to say capitalism because, you know, European countries hadn't adopted capitalism until after. Yeah, exactly.
It was called, what was it called?
I don't know, Boston Tea Party or some bullshit.
It was called imperialism.
Imperialism. Okay. So imperialism, imperialism came from this need to escape oppression within your own home territory. You know, most of the people who came to America, if they weren't doing it to escape the royalty, then they were doing it for the royalty. They were doing it to get money. They were doing it for old money. They were doing it to get funded or to get some kind of financial security. So it's like this idea of early capitalism. And before capitalism became what it was, which, you know, became what it was through royalty in Europe, royalty having a lot of money and some people not having money, and everybody who had money saying, I don't agree with the royals, I'm going to get the hell out of here. And people who don't have money being taken with them, and then it's like, all right.
Right.
We have to think of where it all came from. And it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing that this all imperialism came from royalty. The issue is that we did some of these things out of desperation, but now we're in better times because of it. And hopefully these better times are going to spread around the world instead of people fighting over each other. You know what I'm saying? But you know how different. Yeah,
you had people from London or from England getting out of the country for various reasons, but, you know, some religious, some to escape the government. You had criminals, and then you had the economic ones where they're like, okay, we're going to go over there and not get taxed or get some free land, you know, and capitalize. So real capitalists came over and wanted to capitalize on the opportunity to the new world.
Exactly.
So, and how did we succeed so much? Off the backs of the 300 people that came after the early settlers, right?
The broke and the rich.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I mean,
the backs of the broke and the rich.
Really, yeah. What built America was the poor. Obviously, it still is.
Yeah.
You know, all the rich is just fucking sitting there with their, you know, their Coronas on the beach, like doing nothing. You know, the rich get richer, the poor get poor. I'm saying I got a lot to say, but I ain't snoring. I'm gonna rhyme to this beat like I'm pouring my soul into the sheets. I'm freestyling with my boy Corey, man. We making beats. Making beats.
Whoa. Talking about poetry in my veins. I don't know how to get my brain on the same page, but I'm really trying to put the pen to the dome and write it down like I never had a tome. Never had a tome. They call that an ancient word for a book, and now I'm looking for a throne to get on top of the royalty of all the European ways of viewing currency.
Yeah.
I ain't looking at the way that people look at life through the same squad.
The same squad.
This has been a dope-ass podcast. Just wanted to let y'all know. Thank you for supporting the pursuit of meaning on YouTube and on Instagram. Just want to let you know, big shout out to you. Much love. Please like and subscribe when you have time, if you have time. If you don't have time, then you can just tune in. But it's all good, man. Just wanted to let you know I love you. Peace out.
Later.